National Educational, a program produced for the Educational Television and Radio Center.
Spotlight on Opera. With University of California's Dr. Jan Popper.
Today I would like to talk to you about a favorite of mine, and I know a favorite of yours, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The name alone sounds like music, doesn't it? You know, ladies and gentlemen, in spite of the fact that Mozart's music has given joy to millions of people, there's still a few who have the wrong conception of him. In fact, I was one of them. You know, as a boy, when I had to play Mozart sonatas, of course, I was not ready for these sonatas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and the other kids were out playing football, and here I had to practice Mozart sonatas. I couldn't help think of him, but of a very remote, classical, austere composer, something like a marble bust, maybe. As you find it in conservatories and in museums, and I'm afraid many people still have this idea. But that's all wrong, of course, because the same music will sound warm and lovely. Just a lovely singing melody. And as far as Mozart's personality and character is concerned, my goodness, all you have to do is read a few letters or a biography, and that marble bust idea will just fly out of the window. But you know, it would be just as wrong to think of Mozart only as a composer of gaiety, fun, and frolic, a typical Rococo composer, powdered wig, sword at his side, maybe a little bit the way the 6-year-old child prodigy looked when he played at the court of Maria Theresa in Vienna, and she gave him this lovely, handsome-looking outfit. Well, it is true, there's a lot of charm and grace in Mozart's music, but that's not all. There are also undertones of grief, of sorrow, of true emotions, only we have to listen for them a little bit more careful. For instance, something like this. This is Pamina's song from the Magic Flute. Can any melody be warmer? And things like that can be found all through Mozart's operas. Sometimes it is just sorrow like this. Sometimes it's outright distress or even terror. Now let me try, ladies and gentlemen, and point out to you where does really Mozart's greatness lie. That's not an easy thing to do, but I'll try it anyway. You know, there have been composers who have spoken the symphonic language very well, such as Brahms, Schumann, and Mendelssohn. Others were operatic people, Verdi, Puccini, Wagner. With Mozart, you find it all united. He speaks all these languages. This tremendous universality of Mozart certainly is one important point. In fact, he even writes popular and dance music. You wouldn't believe that. I know many purists don't. But you know, he wrote minuets, gavottes, counter dances, Ländlers. Well, that was the popular dance music of the time. Besides, you find him as a symphonic composer. His 49 symphonies certainly are the climax of 18th century symphonic writing. His 25 piano concertos are really the beginning of the modern piano concerto. Besides, concertos for violin, horn, clarinet, all various instruments. Chamber music, from duets, trios, up to these lovely nocturnes, serenades, which you still can hear when you come to Salzburg during the summer at candlelight. Church music, an entirely different style. There are masses, magnificats, for instance, his last Requiem, which is very well known. And then opera. comic opera, serious opera, all we find on the way as we follow Mozart. So you see this universality I like to point out to you once more. And this really isn't all. Because, you know, anybody can really, who is very diligent, can learn how to juggle notes around and become quite proficient in all of these fields. It takes a little more than that. It takes that human insight that Mozart had. He was not a revolutionist, he was not a reformer, and still what he touched, we find touched with a magic wand. Symphony, for instance. The way he wrote for a symphony orchestra. You would think he sits behind the clarinet or oboe player, so colorful, so warm. Speak to a flutist or oboist. He will tell you, well, Mozart must have played all these instruments because he writes exactly the way for the instrument as it should be written. Now, when it comes to opera, we find exactly the same thing. There, it's dramatic insight. His characters on stage really live. There's never just a stock character like a comedian. No, he might be a comedian, but you see, he changes as the drama goes on. Maybe let me show you at the piano how that works. I'd like to compare two operas for you, one by Rossini and one by Mozart. They're both based on the same plot. You see, the Marriage of Figaro is the first part of Beaumarchais, the Barber of Seville the second, and the Rossini opera was written 30 years later. Now, while the Rossini work is a wonderful opera buffa, comic Italian opera, sparkling gay, the Mozart is an opera buffa, but a human drama besides. Take, for instance, Figaro, as he enters in the Barber, typecast, sempre allegro, always gay. And basically, you know, that is the way he remains all through the opera. Figaro in The Marriage of Figaro is a little different. Yes, he can be gay too. For instance, the mock march song, which he sings at the end of the first act. Cherubino has been drafted into the army involuntarily, and Figaro pokes fun of him. But, for instance, there's a situation of that sort. Figaro just has found out that the Count has designs on his own little Susanna. Splendid, my dearest master. Now I'm beginning to understand the puzzle and see your purpose very clearly. So we all go to London, eh? And I'll be your valet, and little Susanna will be your private secretary. No, sir, that never will happen. And he sings this vengeance aria. Sir, if you like to learn how to dance, I will teach you the steps. You see, a jealous human being stands before us. Doesn't act any different as you or I would in a similar situation. Or let us turn, for instance, to Rosina in The Barber. You see, she is a lovely little doll all the way through. Sings some lovely gay music. In The Marriage of Figaro, she has become the Countess now, mature, stately, and disappointed because her husband does not love her anymore. And she sings this beautiful song. When we first meet her, God of love, restore his love to me. That does not prevent her, however, a few minutes later to be playful with Susanna and so on. With one word, she's not a stock weeping willow now going from the beginning to the end of this opera. Well, even Marcellina, who in this opera is, pardon my expression, sort of a battle axe, changes. After she has learned that Figaro is not her arch foe, but really is her own son. And she becomes quite a nice girl, all the way to the end of the dramatic change is so important. Strangely enough, when it comes to the ensembles now, Mozart still characterizes better because now he has a chance to compare various characters with each other. There is a nice situation right here. Again, pardon me for staying with Figaro so long, but this is wonderful for comparison. For instance, the trio in the first act. There's the Count. He is furious because Cherubino gets in his way everywhere. Besides, he's jealous of him. Go this minute, throw him out, right? Little Susanna, who is very distressed because at this very point, Cherubino is only hidden a few feet away. You see, very typically characterized. And Don Basilio. Well, Don Basilio rubs his hands, musically speaking. Well, sir, it was just a gossip, of course. You see, he's the music master and the chief gossip of the plays. Now, all of this, in spite of that single characterization, blends together into a beautiful unit, into a trio. Let's listen to it right now. Well, here's our trio now. On my left, you see the furious Count, distressed little Susanna in the middle, and over there, Don Basilio, who is enjoying this embarrassing situation tremendously.
That's the limit. Go this minute. Find the culprit and throw him out. Go and find him and throw the culprit out. How ill-chosen was my story. Just a rumor without a doubt.
When we throw it on a scandal, if it's gossip, gets the vote.
The delay and the longer we chosen. My spine was stronger. Just a rumor without
What
a
will
doubt.
happen? Heaven help me. Oh, you see him exactly face. Oh, you see his very face.
I wish we could have done the whole trio for you, but you know there's a lot more music to be listened to. In the 36 short years of his life, Mozart wrote 22 works for the stage alone. You probably think he must have spent all his life at the writing desk. Well, this is not quite so. Look at this. Every one of these full marks represent 1 year in Mozart's life. Up here are the years spent at home. Down here, the years in travel. You can fully see how much time was spent on trips, but do not misunderstand, ladies and gentlemen. He did not just go on pleasure trips. Those were concertizing trips, sometimes job hunting trips. And while he concertized, while he composed, he studied at the same time. He absorbed Italy, France, Germany. That made a true internationalist out of him. Over there is my opera scrapbook. Let's look at a few of the important personalities in Mozart's life. Here are two views of the town of Salzburg. As you see, Salzburg was not the hustling, bustling town which it is today, but really just a provincial little Austrian town. Up here, the fortress, from where the mighty Archbishop princes ruled the entire country. Mozart didn't get too well along with them, by the way. Leopold, Mozart's father, a wise man, excellent musician, good violinist, who at the same time educated the young man and served as his manager. Here's Nannerl, Mozart's sister. She was a good pianist and good musician too, but later on resigned her career in favor of her brother. Here we see Leopold present his little son to the imperial court in Schönbrunn near Vienna. The boy is only 6 years old. This is an interesting gentleman whom he met in London, Christian Bach, the son of the great Johann Sebastian. But Christian did not write as complicated music as Johann Sebastian, but elegant, tenderly melodic music. Mozart studied with him only a few weeks in London and the boy was only 8 years old. And the music of this great man made an indelible mark on the young Mozart. This kindly gentleman here is Father Martini, whom he met in Bologna, Italy, when Mozart was only 15 years old. This was the greatest contrapuntist of his time. As you know, counterpoint is an important musical science and a very complicated one. Again, Mozart only studied a few weeks with this gentleman and absorbed the entire contrapuntal culture. Here you see a score before you, and it's an interesting one. When the Mozarts came to Rome, and again, Wolfgang was only 50 years old, they went to the Sistine Chapel. There in the Easter week, a very complicated work was sung, the Miserere by Allegri. It was not allowed to be printed or published. So Wolferl, our Mozart, listened very carefully, and after coming home, he wrote the entire score down from memory. This is only the first page, of course. Now, this is an important thing to know, because Mozart had what might be called an audiographic memory. He did not have to read books about music, as so many other people do. He just listened to the music, went directly to the music, and memorized it, remembered it for life. But now, let's look over at the map, where some of the important towns in Mozart's life are recorded. Here is Salzburg, his birthplace, from where he traveled over the Alps down to Italy, sometimes in the dead of winter. Milan, where his first operas were performed. Bologna, where he was made a member of the Philharmonic Society, and that was a great honor for a young man. In Rome, he was knighted by the Pope. From then on, he was Cavaliere Mozart. And then on these trips, he came to Mannheim, an important town where the finest orchestra in the world was assembled then. Again, imagine Mozart staying there for weeks and absorbing this wonderful orchestral culture. Altogether, this is an exciting life of travel, of work, of dazzling appearances, and great disappointment. You should read a Mozart biography sometimes. But now, let's listen to Mozart's operas. At the age of 12, Mozart wrote 2 operas. One of them was Bastien and Bastienne, and it really is still given today, sometimes only as a pop opera. It's, of course, a very naive shepherd play with only 3 people in it, and so is the music very naive. Let me play a little bit of the overture for you. You say, oh, wait a minute. Isn't that Beethoven's Eroica? Well, this is just one of those musical accidents. A simple, naive play. A 12-year-old boy writes opera. So on. The songs are just simple shepherd songs. For instance, poor little Bastienne thinks she is forgotten by her dear Bastien. My darling sweetheart now has left me. I cannot rest. I cannot sleep. And you know how fond Mozart was of musical jokes even at that time. For instance, here is the scene where Colas, the magician, looks into the crystal ball to see whether the two really will come together again. And the music becomes quite dramatic. And so on. Diggy, nonsense words. Duggy, Shuri, Muri, Horum, Harum, Lirum, Larum. We just can't understand how much fun 12-year-old children must have had with that. Now, after Bastien, we find 3 Italian operas which are forgotten today and maybe justly forgotten. Although they contain some quite nice music, they were quite traditional in their way. You see, they were commissioned by the 15-year-old gentleman. Commissioned, you'll say, what is that? You see, today, ladies and gentlemen, when an opera is being written, the composer first looks for a good text. After he has the text, Then he waits for inspiration. Then it takes months to write the opera, and then nobody wants to perform it. Well, in these days, it was entirely different. The composer waited until he was given the commission to write an opera. Then it had to go very fast. Sometimes in 2-3 weeks, it had to be written. There was one more complication. He could not write it the way he really wanted it, because the singer told him what he wanted. The singer dominated the stage. You see, it was something like a tailor-made suit today. A custom tailor would not possibly think of working a suit before he knows what his customer looks like. And so in the same way, the singer told the composer what to write. It worked like this, for instance. Now, on the highest rank was the singer. See, he wanted to shine in his arias, and the composer had to write for him according to the range of the voice and the idiosyncrasies of this man. Below him, then, was the composer who served the singer. And on the lowest level was the librettist, the text writer, who now had to serve both of them. When the boy was 19 years old, he was a young man now. Another commission came from Munich for a comic opera. The result was La Finta Giardiniera. Translated, that would be, the make-believe Lady Garden or something of that sort. And I'm afraid the text sounds just like the translation of the title sounds. It isn't very good. It can't make up its mind, should it be a comedy or should it be a tragedy? And so, of course, the music is accordingly. Nevertheless, in spite of the plot in which everybody loves everybody else and not the person they should love, Mozart wrote some of the most sparkling music. Let me play some of that music for you. Here's a good example of the Finta music. This is the introduction to the first vocal number. Elegant music, festive. Shades of Christian Bach. By the way, this work has been very successfully revived by the New England Opera Company in Boston, adapted and done in English. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to a very important work. A work that brings the mature Mozart to us, now 25 years old. A longed-for commission came from Munich to write an opera seria that is a serious Italian opera. Every musician's heart beats higher when you hear the name of Idomeneo. The plot of this work was dramatic enough. Idomeneus, coming home from the Trojan Wars, runs into a terrific storm, and there promises to the gods that he will sacrifice the first person he meets on his home island if he only can be saved. This first person he meets is his own son. Now, of course, this plot had been done before, but the music that Mozart now used. Language of that sort was completely unknown. That's the introduction to Idomeneo. This opera is also full with the most exciting choruses. Maybe what Mozart heard in Paris, maybe the Gluck operas here had a tremendous influence. There are processional choruses, there are storm choruses. For instance, here's an interesting example. Electra just has sung a vengeance aria, and suddenly that storm of her soul changes to a storm out on the ocean. Listen to that. changed. We are now at the seashore, and from a chorus way out there, have pity, have pity. We hear the cries of the shipwrecked. Much of this opera is recitative, by the way, and there again, the beauty of Mozart's music. Lifted the simple recitative to something very unusual, Idomeneo says, "Oh son, dear son, can you forgive me for what I've done? Forgive me." This is a work, ladies and gentlemen, that should be heard very, very often. Now I think my time is nearly up. We have now followed Mozart from his very beginning over his youth operas to maturity. Now the next time I will have the pleasure to bring some of these very mature operas to you that you can hear just about in any opera theater, beginning with the Abduction from the Seraglio through to the Magic Flute. It really has been a pleasure for me being with you, and I hope I see you soon again.
The piece used for the educational television and this is National Educational Television.